Hello everyone, guess what? This is Wolfie Sky Cosplay. Also, I am creating... I'm gonna have to redo that. Okay. So guys, guess what? I have been asked, and well, technically requested, my bad, to measure and do a tutorial on how to measure a doll, or my doll in specific, for people that don't know how to, for new starters in the BJD community, which I actually am a new starter, but yeah. It's not that hard. But okay, so let's say you're making a shirt. So we'll throw this shirt up. No, sorry. I'm recording on my phone because I don't know how to record. I didn't create this sweater at all. My friend gave it to me. She made it for me. Well, she made it. She didn't want it, and she knew I was going to be getting a doll at one point. Actually, she's the one that helped me get the doll. So she gave me this sweater. So how you do it usually is you take for a sweater itself, you want to measure here. So this is the shoulder circumference. So what that means is you're gonna have to measure, hello Sam, all the way around his shoulders. And I do it in inches. Others do it in centimeters. It doesn't really matter. And that is technically like 9.5 inches around. Now, for another thing you want to do is take measurements of the chest, of hers or his chest. If I can get it. Come here. Thank you. So what you always want to do is you have to make sure you measure the biggest part, and that is just under 8 inches. So I'll put it up to 8. What I like to do is when I measure these, I also want to give it extra because you're going to sew it and you're going to be sewing the edges together. And when you sew the edges together, it leaves some of the fabric right here. So you always want to give it a couple of ticks or a couple of marks. So if you were to do inches, let's say if it was, in my case, 9.5 inches, I like to either give it to either up to 10 inches or even just to there. I usually do the extra bit, so I bring it up to 10 inches. So when I made my kimono for him, or yukata, whichever which one, I put it shoulder to shoulder because I wasn't too sure what the actual termination or terminization, I don't know what it's called, what the actual term was for it, so I said shoulder to shoulder, but it's actually shoulder circumference, which is 9 to 10 inches, or if it's from here to here, it is 5 inches or less. Another thing for when I was doing this, shoulder to wrist, which I've got 6.5 inches. So what you do with that is I measured it from the top part, like right to the crease right there. I measured it from there all the way down to the wrist, so like to just above the hand. Another good thing to do if you want is measure it to the knuckles. Another main thing that you want to check to find out is if your fabric isn't stretchy, you're gonna want to have to measure around the hand. So give that usually a good measurement. It is, of course, bigger than your wrist, so sometimes just don't even bother with the wrist. So that one is almost 3.5 inches. So I always usually bring it up to like 4 inches and whatnot. Or in this case, on here, 9 centimeters. So you always want to do that if it's not a stretchy fabric. If it's a stretchy fabric, then it doesn't really matter what it is fully, except for when you do the hemming on the part. This doesn't have any hemming on the front part because this is my friend's first time making something like this, so I'm not. So it doesn't really matter. And this fabric, it doesn't fray. So if it doesn't really fray, you don't really have to worry about the hemming of it. Where in my case, for most of my stuff, they fray. I didn't, for these pajama bottoms, I didn't bother hemming them because I didn't really care. But the fabric, it frays, if I can get it, good thing. the fabric frays. So you always want to make sure you deal with that. And if it does start fraying while you're like after you finish sewing it and whatnot, and you don't want to hem it, clear nail polish can help with it a lot of the time. So you could use clear nail polish for that. So this is a lot of what I did. I called this part waist, even though I realized that, wait, that's not a waist, that's the hips. The waist is like up here. So when I made my kimono slash yukata for my baby, was you always want to make sure that you measure around the hips, because of BJD's butt is pretty big, pretty out there. So you always want to make sure you measure around that part, because you don't want it extremely tight where you can't even get, like if you're making pants, you can't even get the pants up and whatnot. Another thing that you want to take into consideration, because I kind of did mess up on this, was when you put on a stiffer top, like if I can get it out quickly. Come on out, buddy. So when I created this specific top, I'll show you pictures. When I made this top, this is a thicker fabric. It's not stretchy, it's thick. Or it's a stiffer fabric, my bad. It's not stretchy and it's stiff. So you can't really stretch it, and it frays. So when I was making it, I didn't realize that when I was doing it, when you bring the arms up, you also probably, sorry, I have dogs with me. You also want to make sure you measure around here, because when you bring down a stiffer top, it's gonna get extremely hard to pull it actually fully down. It'll be nice and snug around here, but it won't work. And even when you're trying to get it off, it just won't work. And trust me, I know, I've had a lot of problems with this top, so I'm gonna have to either remake it or figure out something else to do with the sides. I already decided one thing where I have only a stitch around here, and then I have this. But then again, this is also a visual K top, so either which way, it doesn't really matter of how it looks, because it's a visual K top. Visual K tops are pretty much handmade or visual K clothing is handmade, stuff like that most of the time. So yeah, so that's that. Another, like when you make pants, it depends on where you want it to go. People say from the hip to the ankle, where others say the waist to the ankle. You could do either which one. Another thing that you'll want to do is, if you're doing a short sleeve top, don't do it from shoulder to wrist, because you just won't. No. You do it from shoulder to the elbow. So always best to get it from maybe up to this part. If you're measuring it this way, measure it from there. Another thing that you're going to want to do is, when you make pants, go at least, like I say, if you're doing it from the waist to at least this part, like the crease right there, for where you part the pants, because you know how pants, they go up and then they have that part for your private part. So you're gonna want to have to measure that, and if you're going from the hips down, so just go above like this part, just like mid part right there, and then measure it downwards. And also always make sure you give extra fabric. That's like, I can't stretch as much, I don't know how to say it right now. Can't stress enough. There we go. How much you're gonna want to add extra fabric. So when you do your ankles, you also want to make sure that you measure kind of around, you measure around this part, because when you put the pants on, it's not like you can easily like make sure that it's going up that way. It's very hard to do that. So if you're like wanting almost like skin tight pants, make sure you have like a stretchier fabric. Pleather can be stretchy, it cannot sometimes. So pleather can work for it being stretchy-ish. Like, if I can get them out. If I can get the right ones out, I should really say. Okay, so like these are my pleather shorts. Pleather shorts, please come out. Thank you. So these are my pleather shorts. You look at these and they don't seem like they'll fit on him easily, but they do. It's because this fabric is a stretchier-esque fabric, so because it's stretchier, it fits and it's a nice snug thing. It's snug to this part, but it's also, I kind of messed up and it's very tight on this part, so I'm just like, if any normal guy was to wear this, that would hurt like a complete, just no, it just would hurt so much. But because this fabric is stretchy, I was able to keep it nice and snug. But my like these pants itself, they aren't stretchy at all. They're not like, they're actual, like from an actual set of pants, so they're not stretchy. So I kept these nice and open enough so it can go over the foot and still look good on the on your doll kind of like thing. Trying to think of other things to say. Shorts, depending on how long you want them. If you want the shorts from waist down, do the waist to the kneecap. I always suggest like up to here so you have more fabric. So if you want to have it longer, then you can hem a little bit, but if you want it shorter, you have a lot to hem with. And if you want it longer but you want a decent amount to hem, then at least go at least halfway down so you have more to hem, and if you need to, you can cut it a little bit. And then when you do the pants, make sure that you cut out from, at least bring it down to like either your ankle, or you can bring it down to the bottom of your foot so you have stuff to hem with, and just in case the pants want to sneak its way up more, then it won't look really stupid, because these pants kind of do that. They like to sneak up a little bit, and it gives him more room right there, and I'm just like, nah. I don't like that. But then again, with the story behind these pants and the story behind the clothes that he wears with these pants, it makes more sense kind of thing. So that's generally like kind of like how I usually measure my dolls. Oh, another thing I completely forgot because I just didn't think of it. If you're making a crop top, so this fricker right here, measure easily where you want to measure it. So measure it from like just above the collarbones, and then maybe to here, depending on how, if you're gonna hem it. I didn't hem this, so I didn't really have to worry. I measured it literally to there. If you're gonna hem it, for if you want a crop top, go to the belly button. If you want a normal top, depending on how long you want it, bring it down to the hips. Or if you want it like, so then you can hem it, but if you want it at least the top to go down the hips, measure it to there, so then you can actually hem it to bring it to the right way. If you have stretchy fabric, once again, you don't really have to measure the head, but if you have a thicker, I can't think of the name right now. God. You have a stiffer fabric, you're going to want to measure the head or cut the back of the t-shirt, so then you can actually just either velcro something on the back, clip it, button it up, so on and so forth, or you can button it up in the front. Either which way, it's better if you just want like a normal top, like a normal front faced top. Like what I could have done with this outfit is I would have had this, and then in the back I could have cut down here and velcroed that part, and then I could actually continue with the way that I had this kind of thing. So that's another good thing to take consideration. Measure the head, the part that's the biggest, so around this part of the head, which is the head circumference, and also measure the neck. If you have a stretchier one, measure the neck so it can work. If you're giving measurements out to someone, what I did when I gave measurements out to someone was, here we go, height, width of head, neck circumference, width of shoulder, you also want to do those were two different things. Chest circumference, circumference of waist, circumference of hip, thigh circumference, which I completely forgot to say. So you always want to measure this part of the thigh. Always the fatter, thicker part. You always want to go there. You don't want to measure right here because then it won't give the accurate measurement for if you wanted to get any further up. Also, what you also might want to do is measure along for like from, if you're going from hip to ankle, hip to the thigh, thigh to the kneecap, kneecap to the ankle if you're doing a tighter fit pants. You also want to do that if you want to do a tighter fit top. Neck to chest, chest to like stomach, stomach to if you want it long, waist or hip. It's another good thing to do, and the same with any other thing. If you want it tight, you always want to give multiple different measurements so you can actually measure it the correct way. And if you ever want to do anything like more a little in a sense awkward for other people, if you want to do like a blindfold, you're gonna want to measure around this part as well, and depending on how the way you want to do it, if you want it to come up like around the head so it actually is sturdy, you're gonna want to measure that easily enough. It's not that hard to do. If you want to do a headband or a bandana, it's the same thing. Measure around this part. Hello, sorry. And one thing you really should do is always make sure you use clips, use buttons, use anything that can make it easier for you so you don't have to take off the head all the time. With this top, I have to take off my guy's head, and I'm like tempted to learn how to take off the arms because I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do most of the stuff with these guys because like he came with his body intact, thankfully. But I had to add the head on, and my friend had to explain to me how to add the head on because I didn't know. I was completely like, I don't know how to do this, help me. You know stuff. This is my first time having a doll, and yeah, so that's kind of how I usually do my measurements. I give a lot of different measurements around. Like if I was to give measurements to a friend, I didn't do it before. I should have did multiple different measurements just in case, but my friend is doing a knit or a crochet of our art trade because I created this for her. It is a 3-toned circle skirt. Because it's not stretchy at all, I added a button, which if I can get the button out, I added the button in the back, and I also left this bit of a hole in the back as well. So for when she opens this up, instead of it just being the size or the size of the waist of her doll, it is also the size of her hips. It's another thing. If you're making commissions for anyone, or if you have a girl doll, if it's a thicker fabric like this, always measure the hip and take that into consideration if you're trying to get it up. If it's a stiffer fabric. If it's not a stiffer fabric, then who cares? You can just slip it up and it's easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Alright, so hopefully this is really helpful to the one that has requested this from me. And I really hope that other people that will watch this will also appreciate this all and make it easier for them to sew. And if you need any more questions, just definitely ask me. I don't mind helping out from what I know. And if I don't know it and you need to know it and you can't find anyone else to tell you, I will find other people. They will let me know and I will let you know. So this is Wolfie Sky, and I am going to sign out and hope if you need any more help, just ask me and I'll definitely help you out. Okay, bye.